Lord, we gather here today amongst these great people who are in our chat room, and we implore you, Lord, to intervene on our behalf. For the stupid, it has grown so mighty. The stupid, it surrounds us on all sides. And we pray that you will, this very evening, blessed be thy name, part the sea of stupid right here in front of us. Yes, Lord, if we may, just reach out with your right hand and go with the stupid, and also take your left hand, praise be, and the stupid this way, so that we may, as learned and joyful human beings, walk into the promised land free of the dum-dums. Amen. And Lord bless us and keep us this very day. Friends, we appreciate you joining us here today. I have a slight warning for you. I have decided to take a hallelujah to you as well. Hallelujah to the chat room. How are you? Good to see you. Can you get a man or a woman, whatever it turns you on and flips your bacon? That's not my area to judge in any way, but if I could, friends, neighbors, countrymen, lend me your rears, because upon it we shall lay the spankings of intelligence upon those that may believe an endless pile of dipshittery on this the Good Friday, which is only good for the people, I suppose, that benefited from Easter in the long run, whereas the Lord himself, it was a rough one. I gotta say, Lord Jesus, we know that of all the Fridays that happen, and that includes the sequels, that this particular Friday is the last Friday you would call good. It was actually painful Friday. It was probably the longest Friday of your relatively short earthly existence. It was a pain in the hands, if I do say so my damn self. And as our great preacher and man of God, the late brother Sam Kinison said, Jesus will probably come back when he can't. He's the only because he's only the only Messiah that can use his hand as a whistle. And Lord, we hope that your whistle rains down upon us and tells us when to stop when traffic is coming. You know, we appreciate you, Lord, if you use your whistle hands to annoy Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's in in New York City. And amen. I'll get another amen. All right. Hi, everybody. I don't, I was on so many fronts. Oh, the stupid. Oh, the stupid. Lord, the stupid that we are dealing with today. Let me tell you what. And CSL, I don't know if we have the Bobert interview. I think it was in there somewhere, and I was digging for it, and I think we've just had a storm of dumb, and it's like buried under an avalanche of dumb. It's in there somewhere. I know it's in the, if there's a way to bring it to the front so I can dig it up or something, I will keep scrolling. But again, largely that's because of just the absolute boink. Nope. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that, sir. It made I scrolled up in the thing, and then as soon as you wrote something down, it auto scrolled to the bottom so I could see the latest post. And I was like, dear God, my Discord is possessed. The Lord has spoken in his own way through his beloved emissary CSL. Thank you, sir. So, where do we start? Let's start among friends today, shall we? Shall we do that? And I say friends obviously in air quotes, because you guys know that there are a couple of areas where the hashtag Fogressives come out in force, and we've dealt with the majority, the most egregious cases of it. But there are a couple of lurkers, people in the background that sell this idea that they are somehow progressive or liberal or something, and they're better at it than some others, right? There's some people who are just like brand at this point are just fucking terrible at it and aren't even trying. They're phoning in their faux aggressiveness, and it's pathetic. I wish they'd try a little harder so it'd make my job a little more interesting when we have to deal with them. But right now, it's just so ham-fisted and dumb that you're like, all right, asshole, you're just being gross. And then there are some of those folks that are, you know, as we've discussed before, every hook needs a worm. Otherwise, you wouldn't bite down on it. And many of us will remember a dear lady named Crystal Ball, who's been around for a long time, who did a weird sort of, I think, a Bernie Bro related switcheroo on the Democratic Party. She had her breaking point when that happened, it seems, and kind of had that chip on her shoulder. And then she and Sagar moved to the Hill for a while, I think, and then the show was on the Hill, not the actual Hill, the Hill's website, whatnot. And then they got booted and went off on their own, and they basically just took the entire structure of the show with them. But and it may have been that the Hill just did their own kind of private, separate from the brand thing, and this was all just for show, but who gives a shit? The point is, it's breaking points with Crystal and Sagar, and they're on the other sides. I don't know why that is. Crystal and Sagar, and Crystal's over here and Sagar's over there, so it's very zigzag. The whole thing's a mess. I don't understand, but I appreciate that they're doing their show from a laptop repair shop or a I don't know, a bookstore that only sells one copy of something at a time. It's an interesting set. It's the breakup of the brick, the oversized bricks, which makes them look really tiny. I don't know what's happening. I honestly don't. I don't know what the fuck that is. But so Sagar and Crystal Ball are on this, and they stepped on a minefield of one of my areas of expertise, and it just, you know, when I see these things, and I'm like, "Kaburt!" Yeah. Petrodollar collapsing with new China deals. Okay, now, there are two reasons why this is stupid. Well, there's 10, but the other two. One of the reasons it's stupid, and how you know it's stupid, is because it is exactly the same story that Glenn Beck is telling. That's how you know you're in dumb territory and you've taken the bait. But in this particular instance, and I appreciate, by the way, the organization of the show. It's fabulous. They've got this little thing across the bottom of the screen. I don't know if you can see this. Very fancy. Trump, China, Nord Stream, 2024, media, Crystal, Sagar, Frank, La La Land. And I can't read it because it's under icons. And I don't care. And so I guess they both get their piece. In this particular part, maybe ladies first, and that's why she's first in the sign. But I don't know why they're left to right. Forget it. Anyways, Nord Stream, I'm sure, fuck man, I'm going to have to look up this Nord Stream clip too, because they're also big, America did this. Like, no amount of evidence is going to change their mind, it seems. It's, you know, unless they finally bit the bullet on this last segment, but whatever. The point I'm trying to make is, this whole, like, the petrodollar is dying. Let me start with one thing. First of all, fuck the petrodollar, and it was never going to last forever as a theory anyways, because we're moving away from fossil fuels. Another word for the petrodollar, because it's petroleum-based fuels, would be the coal dollar, or the fucking fossil fuel dollar in that regard. In which case, we want, as a country, out of that business because of how much leverage it has on your economy and how much control that gives other countries that produce more of the shit than you do, or less of the shit if they manipulate the markets, so that even if you produce enough that because it buys, and you could buy it and sell it on the international markets, you don't, if everybody in the world is buying it for a way higher price because they jack the price up internally, because we don't own we haven't nationalized our oil, that price will go up, but we won't benefit from it. The cost will just keep going up and up and up. And as it becomes less valuable over time as a fuel source, the people who still use it will be more desperate to get it, and therefore it will go up in price. And if you use it less and less in your own country, it's going to be a boutique fuel over here. So gas itself will continue to rise. And the sooner we get out of the fucking gasoline business, the better. It is one thing to use petroleum-based and coal-based energy sources to run your factories, because they, if you're smelting fucking iron, it's heat intensive, it's energy intensive, and it's fucking ridiculous. And unless you want to give these places their own little thorium reactor, that's how you're going to do it. But as far as consumer shit goes, and as far as how much your house actually uses versus how much you think you need, especially as we move towards LED lighting and more efficient electronics and yada yada, we're going to need less and less of it just to have everything we want. Our lifestyles will not change, but because of the deflationary aspect of technology, we will get more of those comforts for less. And also, not just for less money, but also they will require less energy. Okay? And the sooner we get out of the fucking oil situation that the world is trapped in, the developing world especially, and then the mid-level world, the kind of countries that can't, basically you've got a bifrenia in China, whether they don't want to be out of the developing country world into the industrialized world completely. So they either lie about the lines or manipulate the lines back and forth all the time, because ultimately the day they're out of that, they become more responsible for their reality, and that sucks. So that's a long story. We'll get to that in a minute. But overall, there will be a time, and this may surprise folks, where oil will not be, and this will be relatively soon, oil will not be the primary international energy currency. Oil, like natural gas, is already sort of eclipsing it on a lot of fronts, but both of them are going to go. The transition will take a while, and again, you're going to move from consumer vehicles to mid-level transportation trucks, and then big trucking, and then, then you've got maglev trains and hydrogen airplanes, and that's 15, 20 years down the line. But that's where we're headed. And that's less than 2 fucking decades away. That's closer than the 90s. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So ultimately, at some point, and the Saudis are already kind of onto this, you're going to have to ditch petroleum as a primary both energy source and currency and finance choice, or you are just screwed. Because the rest of the world is going to move on without you. It'll take time, and it won't be water. But that's another conversation. All right. Water we will get to. And in the United States, North America, and arguably South America, we don't have a freshwater problem as long as we keep it. Europe is kind of okay too. Northern Africa and Central Africa, and arguably, I guess, most of South Africa doesn't have a problem either. Chunks of Eastern Europe and certainly Asia have a big problem, and the Middle East is fucked freshwater-wise. That's where the water wars will be amongst those countries. And again, they'll be as ugly and bloody and stupid as the petroleum-based ones are. But I think we can all agree that the idea is that at some point, and better sooner than later, we are out of the petroleum market in terms of anybody being able to manipulate our currency and our economy through the rising and lowering of petroleum outputs of any sort. That the day, the one of the greatest days, and we're basically there now, but there will be a point where it absolutely is fact, where the Saudis, like OPEC Plus or anybody else, whoever replaces or gets Russia's oil that tries to manipulate it, or anybody else, will cut production in half. And no one in the United States, Canada, and Mexico in this general area will give a fuck. It won't matter at all. It won't affect the overall price of consumer transport in the United States in any meaningful way. We will lower our dependence on it so much that the 17.2 million barrels of oil that we produce will produce enough gasoline and petroleum product that we can power those vehicles that still need it inside our country, and then Canada will do some, and Mexico will do some. And between the three of us, we won't need boats or trucks from anywhere else to ship the shit. And we can just kind of create a trade deal around our energy needs in that small area. And that's already what's happening. It was part of NAFTA originally. It's part of the USMCA. It was always a thread line through it. That's always been the goal. And the idea is that one day, no matter what the fuck, the Saudis or the Iranians or anybody does with oil or gas, it won't matter. And anybody who is looking forward to even a mildly sci-fi future where everything is cleaner and more electricity based, and that electricity is produced through cleaner means, is looking forward to that day. However, one of those people is not Sagar, apparently. And Doris talked about the petrodollar collapse last year, and the BRICS agreement about them creating a cryptocurrency amongst them that they'll balance off of somebody's shit. Knock yourself out. But right now, Brazil is agreeing with China to buy stuff in yuan. And that's what everybody's freaking out about. And Marco Rubio flipped out about it, I think, I want to say he was on Fox Business or whatever the shit. And he's got a real concern about this, that this is going to have an impact. It isn't. From an economic standpoint, this just means the U.S. does not have to carry as much debt to produce enough dollars to have in circulation so that fucking Brazilians can can sell oil to the Chinese in U.S. dollars going through in physical means. And therefore, the Fed could arguably take in those funds that are no longer in circulation in the world, burn them up, or move them out of circulation, and it's another way to bring down inflation in the United States, along with the deflationary impact of technology. Now, let's go with it. Let's see what their take on it. This is Crystal and Sagar discuss how China is making big moves to break the dominance of the U.S. dollar on the world stage. Let's do it.
Trump indictment. The first and foremost is a massive story about the petrodollar.
Oh, the petrodollar. There is no petrodollar, by the way. The U.S. currency is used to trade all kinds of things, and there's no more a petrodollar than there is a silicon chip dollar or a real estate dollar.
And about the way that other nations outside of the West are handling relations with China, with Russia, with vis-a-vis the United States and Ukraine.
Oh, and by the way, Sagar I don't know why, but is all in on fuck Ukraine. This is also, it all goes back to why are we helping Ukraine, which is why his thinking on this is almost identical to Glenn Beck's, is almost identical to Russell Brand's, is almost identical to Jimmy Dore's. There's very little, it's almost just like language syntax.
There was a very interesting and noticed clip from Fox News where Senator Mark...
Oh, I see. Yes. So we're listening to Marco Rubio now on Fox News. Very interesting.
Marco Rubio actually went on Fox to decry Brazil ditching the petrodollar for future oil transactions with China and talking about the declining efficacy of U.S. sanctions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. And by the way, this is the reason why he thought it was a pickup story. It seems is because sanctions. He's against the sanctions against Russia in general.
Let's take a listen to that.
Today, Brazil, in our hemisphere, largest country in the Western Hemisphere south of us, cut a trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world, totally independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction them. As we are sitting here...
Yes. For one, they will trade with each other. But if they want to trade with us, as the single largest buyer, for example, and we are not sanctioning China right now on, as far as buying energy or buying medicine or any of that kind of shit. The normal functioning of it, like military technology, chips, absolutely. But that's not what you get from Brazil. And we don't have a dog in that fight. We don't. And so if they want to trade like Chinese goods for foodstuffs or energy from Brazil without momentarily transacting it through the U.S. dollar, you know what that means? That means there are fewer U.S. dollars circulating in the country that provides most of the cocaine to the world. And ultimately, that gets us even more out of that situation. And wait till the bundles of fake yuan start rolling in, because you deal with the same problems we've had to deal with in those circumstances. As we retract from our, the Bretton Woods extension where we protect all shipping lanes and we operate everything, and move back to just the areas we care about, that's where the responsibility for keeping it going will fall on one of two parties. In this case, the Brazilians or the Chinese. Now, the Chinese, and this is, I'm sure, going to be part of the story. This is, well, we'll see yeah, here we go. I'll see if he gets to this point. I'll give you 1 second. I want to finish his thought, and then we'll get
focused on some of these nuttiness that's going on. People that are basically dedicating their lives in this country to ensuring that it is legal to mutilate children, to do drag shows in schools. They dedicate their lives to this, and we have
Okay, first of all, to do drag shows in schools, dude, get the fuck off of Twitter and read some real papers. Holy shit. Does this asshole think that, like, everybody's just given up on business altogether? That this 0.5% of our social interactions, that most people in this fucking country have never been to a drag show as adults, much less had gone to a drag queen story hour, much less brought one to a fucking school. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, it happens, but not on a scale that should fucking matter. And the only reason this dickhead is digging into this is A, because it, flares up the base and can, and attracts that particular gaggle of bigots, but also because it keeps him from having to do any fucking actual work. Where's the bill? Where's the Shore Up the U.S. Dollar Act?
Another superpower that basically wants to become the world's dominant power at our expense, and these people don't want to focus on it.
First of all, at our expense. Can I just say that everything Marco Rubio said there is ass? First of all, any country that wants to be a superpower is technically, quote unquote, at our expense because we're the only one. Much has been made of this idea that Russia can project power across the world and therefore they're a superpower. Bullshit. They can't even project power in any meaningful way a couple of 100 miles from their capital. So fuck off with this nonsense. Secondly, China doesn't have any boats that can go 500 miles offshore without having to be refueled. Further than that. Every one of their ships is diesel. None of their super carriers can launch the airplanes that they actually have. They just park there. And then they drive it, they take the supercarrier to an island, offload the planes, and then the planes take off from an actual landing strip, from an actual runway.
So very interesting, at least the front part of
gotta get his culture war
to
blow
get
in there.
Yeah, I know.
Gotta get his culture war blowing there because that's the distraction.
It's kind of funny to see the two pair together. But look, he's actually not wrong. Let's go ahead and put this up there.
Yeah, he
On
is.
the screen. China and Russia are currently looking to challenge the petrodollars.
Oh, dear God. They're currently looking. Are they now? Uh-huh. Are they? Are they currently looking?
Very interesting write-up over from oil price. What they point.
Yeah, by the way, we go to oil price sometimes just for the oil price there. This is from Svetlana Pereskova. This particular, look at this. Oh, let's see. Let's go to oilprice.com. Now, I don't think this is where I just called this up. Just so you know, I just called up oilprice.com. Oilprice.com. I don't know why, but adding oil, .com to the end of any kind of phrase makes it sound like a jingle these days. Because why would you use that? Remember when I told you about how the Middle East is trying to get out of the oil business because they can see the fucking horizon? You want to see the fucking hell? You want to see the headline that came up when the top 2 headlines on oilprice.com. Now, granted, they're going to be worried about this shit, so it's going to make sense why they put it up there. High oil prices are fueling the Middle East's renewable energy boom. Soaring oil prices have led to budget surpluses, bolstering diversification efforts in the MENA region, particularly in Saudi Arabia. That's right. What did I tell you? Saudi Arabia is getting out of the oil business. They're fucked. They've been cash poor for a long time. That's why they've been rounding up their rich relatives and making them pay back all the money. That's why they're investing in these tourist traps. They're basically going to become Disneyland for Muslims. They know that 1 billion Muslims eventually in their lifetime have to come to Saudi Arabia to go to Mecca and Medina, and that's what they're going to leverage for the rest of eternity. That's what they're planning, because oil ain't going to be enough. And look at the one right above it. Breaking news. South Korea pledges $5 billion in support for battery makers in the, in the U.S. Where's the battery dollar? We're not going to have, we can't have the Duracell dollar? The Dura dollar? What are we going to call that shit now? It's so aggravating. It's just so stupid. Everybody is stampeding the fuck away from petroleum because they know they have to be the first ones out the fucking door. Excuse me one second. I have to click one thing off. There you go. And this is a turn that has to happen. Bumpy as it might be for how the dollar is used or how any other currency is used. But eventually, I got news for you. Eventually, there's going to be like 4 currencies on Earth that still trade in dollars, in the same way that for a long time, like, you'd have to pay cash to buy film stock because nobody would charge it. The people that sell film stock didn't have a fucking credit card terminal anymore. All right, so here we go. This is This is the US dollar, which has been, okay, and let me look at this. Let me try and find I'm going to search out this. China and Russia. Look to. The fuck was this? April 4th. Okay. There it is. Okay, here we go. This is the whole article from Svetlana Beroskova. Is a writer from oilprice.com with over a decade of experience writing for news outlets such as Invest and C News. The US dollar, which has been the currency of choice in oil markets since the 70s, is still the dominant currency in the market. While the Chinese currency has made inroads in global trade, the yuan accounts for just 2.7% of the market. Several deals and summits in recent weeks signaled that China and Russia are moving to try and sideline the U.S. dollar, increasing closer negotiations, the U.S. dollar, blah, blah, blah. The new geopolitical alliances, China and Russia are trying to oppose a U.S.-led global order, would undermine the petrodollar. China has been looking for years to establish more trade deals in yuan and increase the relevance of the currency in the global markets and challenge the U.S. dollar's dominance in international trade, including energy trade. During a landmark visit to Saudi Arabia and Riyadh, Chinese President Xi Jinping said that China and the Arab Gulf nations should use the Shanghai Petroleum and National Gas Exchange as a platform to carry out yuan settlement of oil and gas trades. China will continue to import large quantities of crude from the GCC countries, expand imports of liquefied natural gas, strengthen cooperation in upstream oil and gas development, engineering services, storage, transportation, refining, making full use of the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas. This is, by the way, Belt and Road fallback number 1, just in case you know. While the Chinese currency has made inroads, yuan accounts for just 2.7% of the market compared to the U.S. dollar's 41%. Moreover, the U.S. dollar accounted for more than 58% of the global currency reserves as of the end of 2022. 58% of the world keeps their savings in U.S. dollars. We are 4% of the world's population, compared to 2.7 share for the Chinese yuan. Let's see. From the IMF. Several deals and summits in recent weeks signal that they're going to do this. Last month, Xi Jinping met with Putin in Moscow. Yeah, we support the Chinese yuan and payments between Russia and countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Putin was quoted as saying by Russian media, according to Putin, 2/3 of the bilateral trade between China and Russia is already being done in the two national currencies, the yuan and the ruble, respectively. Over the past year, Russia has turned to trade in the yuan in the wake of the Western sanctions, blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with the petrodollar in that regard. Last week, China and Brazil agreed to carry out a bilateral trade settlements in their own currencies and dump the U.S. dollar as the intermediary currency. Another move seen by China's increase in the efforts to undermine the dollar dominance. And by the way, bilateral trade settlements, does not necessarily mean that it's focused entirely on their oil. Again, this is goods for goods. This is, we'll give you foodstuffs and Chinese electronics and stuff like that, and almost a barter system version of it without having to trade that in Chinese, in the yuan at all. Brazil and China are part of the BRICS, blah, blah, blah. They've been in there all right. Also last week, China reportedly completed its first traded liquefied natural gas settled in yuan in the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. Saudis joined that last week. That's what part of this is. Again, they are sucking up countries that are currently eating shit.
Right now is that currently the yuan accounts for just 2.7% of the global oil market. However, a lot of the more recent deals in recent weeks are signaling that the Chinese and the Russians are moving to try and sideline the dollar, not only from Brazil, as he said, which is the largest nation in all of South America, but actually during that visit.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Brazil's entire GDP, everything, not oil, not its sales or whatever, $1.6 trillion. The U.S., and because for a country that fucking big, that's kind of pitiful. We are $26 trillion, the United States economy. Again, we could take a $4 trillion hit getting out of the oil market and still be the most comfortable nation on the fucking planet.
To Riyadh, Xi Jinping in December said that the China and the Arab Gulf states are going to be trying to use Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange platforms to carry out yuan settlement on oil and gas trade.
Yuan. Not yonder settlements.
So a separate infrastructure is propping up through which to replace the petrodollar, specifically to try and circumvent U.S. sanctions. Right now, 58% of global currency reserves are the U.S. dollar from 2022. Only 2.7% of that, like I said, remains in the Chinese yuan. But I mean, even a 10.
By the way, anybody spot that too? Anybody spot the comparison to that number? 2.7% of global trade in oil and gas is in yuan. It's the exact same number for trade in general. It's the only thing they trade in yuan. Now, why would that be? Well, partly because they're not actually giving you yuan for it. They're giving the equivalent of the worth of yuan. That's what the Shanghai exchange part is about. You know what? We'll build a piece of infrastructure for you. We'll send our workers to do it, where they siphon fucking money out of an area and send it back to China. That's what the Africans are complaining about right now. I showed you a couple weeks ago where there are riots in Africa over this very thing. About, like, basically, if you're African and you go to China and you buy some goods and you set up a relationship with a supplier there and you bring those goods back to Africa, you have to pay shipping. If you're Chinese and you're in Africa anywhere, you don't have to pay any of the shipping charges. So you get to undercut everybody. And then the Chinese government came in because of part of their BRI thing, told everybody, we're going to build you a mall. And then they filled it with Chinese-only stores with only Chinese people working in them. And everything there is like a third less, no matter what it is, than anything sold on the street in an already impoverished country in a lot of cases. And you wonder why the people are fucking pissed. You can't start a store. They will undercut you. China is trying to be the Walmart of the American Midwest. Like that's what Walmart did. Remember the whole complaint about Walmart and mom and pop stores? That's what China is doing to all the buyers and sellers in Africa. And you think it's going to be different anywhere else? You think it would be nicer to Arabs? You think it's so stupid.
Percent increase in that is a massive sea change to the global reserve currency.
Yeah.
But drop even the global reserve currency.
Yeah, even if that doesn't end up happening, and and obviously if they tie, obviously these countries are notoriously authoritarian and prone to, internal strife and fighting with each other, so that, they'll just think of it as a brand new euro and it's going to go very smoothly.
And all of that rhetoric. Why does it matter? Because, let's put this up there, and this is straight from Chinese media, from the South China.
Well, then you could, absolutely.
Morning Post. I thought it was important to actually pull the perspective that they are trying to push out.
Yes. That's weird. I'm sorry. You don't realize that the other article you cited is the perspective that they are trying to push out?
There, which is that the Brazilian inroads and de-dollarization is, quote, reflecting cracks in U.S. currency settlements. Here's really what happened, and this is why I was a huge critic also of what was going on in the initial days of sanctioning.
Right.
We basically blew up the global financial trade system for a country, Russia, and for another country, Ukraine, which at the end of the day, the material fate of those two countries, especially Ukraine, has zero impact on the U.S. economy.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, again, just remember your days of being against the Iraq war as I was, or, against even the Afghanistan war as I was, and I'm glad we're out. And remember the tales, no blood for oil, right? In this particular case, never mind the fact that there is an oil and gas element and a mineral and foodstuffs element of Ukraine that, if Russia has control of it, absolutely does give them control over our largest trade partner, the EU, and our allies in NATO and all these other groups. And so that pressure that they have on Germany, they could extend to everyone else. And so what Sagar is saying here is just plainly fucking stupid. But beyond being dumb, it's ugly and cruel. Because ultimately it's like, fuck it, who cares? Russia can kill all those fucking people. It has nothing to do with the U.S. economy. So if there is blood for oil, at least that makes it worth it. Is that the idea? If it's blood for freedom or actual beliefs, what a waste of fucking time. I mean, dude, we're going to get shorter hours at Starbucks or something.
On the U.S. way of life. I know there's going to have a lot of Ukrainian NAFO stands in the comments, but...
And by the way, NAFO, not NATO, NAFO. NAFO is hold on, let me show you real quick. This is here it is. Yeah. The North American Fella Organization, which is a meme about people who give a shit about NATO. And technically it's also the Northeastern American Fisheries Organization as well. I don't know if that matters to anybody. But this is him just denigrating NATO in general and saying, fuck NATO. So, and by the way, as a cheap aside, not a principled idea about the concerns for, that NATO was absolutely right to be concerned about Russian expansionism, especially because of what they did in Georgia, what they did in Chechnya, the control systems that they put up in Kazakhstan and Dagestan and Turkmenistan, and of course their attack on Ukraine in 2014 and their ongoing desire to push through it and claim there, and then Moldova, and then claim, like, going on television and saying we're going to nuke Berlin next. Fuck off.
But here's the deal. Whoever controls Kyiv, that doesn't affect anybody's life in Nebraska.
Jesus Christ. Honestly. Just the douchebaggery of this whole thing. Look, financially, Is it really going to make a fucking difference to you? Freedom schmeedom. Good Lord. Well, then, at that point, why send UN peacekeepers into the Congo if there's going to be a genocide? Why do it? Is it really going to affect anybody here if, like in Rwanda, like when Rwanda happened, does it really, I mean, does the Tutsis kill the Hutus or vice versa? I mean, dude, it's not even going to make the fucking paper in Idaho, so who gives a shit? Fuck those people, right? And the idea that we, quote unquote, blew up the financial system to do it is frankly fucking goofy. How? This doesn't even work on, because these are also some of the people who believe that the military-industrial complex just wants the war in Ukraine so they can make $1. Well, then, if they're making $1 on it, why would they blow it up for no particular? Why would you think they don't have diversified investments?
However, there are a lot of other countries and potential conflicts where that is not the case. And so one of the things that I was trying to say then is you only get one shot at this, at showing your hand. You know, whenever you're the empire and you like pull the ripcord on your real, like, most financial power that you have, you better do it on something that really matters.
Yes.
You decided to do that on Ukraine.
And it worked. And any talk of China like attacking Taiwan, as much as they've been wagging their sabers around, had dwindled quite a bit.
Well, the Chinese, the second largest economy on Earth, far more powerful ever than the USSR. They saw all of that in Beijing, and they're like, okay, that's just never going to ever happen to us. And they're not fools. So what do? Immediately, they started doing yuan deals with Russia. They go to India.
Okay, first of all, don't even get me started on fucking China and India right now. Good Lord. But, of course, they're doing deals with Russia. They intend to take it over. They want half of Russia back. And they're going to get it, whether they buy it or, extend a hand and then snatch it back, or play this out until Russia collapses and then just seize it.
As well, India, then one of the largest nations outside of China, says, well, we still want cheap oil, and so they decide to start pricing things in different currency when buying from the Russians. The Brazilians, who are not on board with us at all.
Yeah.
And how many times, Crystal, have we pointed to global public opinion that says that the rest of the world does not agree with us on Ukraine? They don't.
And also, look, I don't know what the fuck. The rest of the world does not agree with us. Yeah, that's why all of our NATO allies are in lock sync. It's why Finland and Sweden joined NATO as a part of this. And what he means is all the shitty countries that we have had to play footsie with for years because they have petroleum are no longer on board. And good riddance.
Don't agree with Russia either, but they definitely don't agree with the NATO-centric view of the conflict that this is.
All right. Again, they don't agree with Russia either. In this particular sense, a country has attacked another. If you either believe that country is worth defending and you will help them because you consider them an ally, or you believe that the other country, even though you don't like them, shouldn't be stopped from doing whatever the fuck they want. And a lot of these countries, by the way, aren't geographically tied to the area surrounding Ukraine the way Germany and Poland and France and all the European countries are, and Moldova and Latvia, Lithuania, and all the ones that are like ideologically tied into the same situation that Ukraine finds itself in.
Some existential threat to their interests, they don't really care either way. They're like, yeah, I'm not saying it's good, but, like cheap oil is nice because that's what we have to, at the end of the day, we got to care.
Sagar, that's what you're fucking saying. Cheap oil is worth more than Ukrainian lives and Russian dominance of the wheat fields of Ukraine and the gas pipelines through there for political leverage over Europe and control over grains that go to Africa. That you're like, you know what? As long as my life isn't interrupted, fuck them. That's the argument here. And all right, in the case where you're discussing someone saying, in Trump's case, saying we should have kept the oil, or the belief that we should, in the Cheney world, be able to attack a country that has resources that we need to secure those resources. Is it actually the oil that you want, that the consumer, the citizen of whatever country that's attacking wants? No, you want the comfort that it brings. You want the ability for you to get relatively cheap gasoline that fuels your economy, fuels your car, gets you to work on, and makes you have to pay very little for it so that you can use your money that you have for the creature comforts of life instead of just, having to go, oh shit, my entire paycheck goes into my tank, right? That's what that's about. It's not because we all want a barrel of our own oil like gold so that we can make a fucking hat out of it and go, look how wonderful it is. Have you seen my gold pile? That kind of idea around oil. We want it to use it, is the idea. And we use it to grow the economy, to provide ourselves and our progeny with more creature comforts or with their necessities, right? At the very baseline. And what Sagar is saying here is that is a worthwhile reason to attack a country. And there is no worthwhile reason to defend a country unless those resources, I guess, come back to you. Unless people in Nebraska are promised extra, Lviv watermelons or natural gas from the fields there, or any of the number of minerals that they have. The argument is the lives of those people ain't worth it because what's in it for us?
For our own citizens. So looking at this and just seeing the colossal economic blunder that we have made, we essentially sacrificed really, I think, the only chance we ever had at being able to financially push back on China if we...
Okay, first of all, extra stupid. If we were ever going to. He's still one of these all in... is Sagar the last Ray Dalio fan in the fucking world?
Ever wanted to, in exchange for, the fate of Eastern Donbass in Ukraine, which I think is nuts. I mean, there's no balance sheet where any of this makes sense.
Yeah, human lives don't matter. Crystal, back to you.
We really warned about this
yes.
early on, that there's a cost to, it's not just a cost to, Russian society for the economic warfare that we were waging, but that there were real risks entailed here. But I think you have to go.
Holy shit. This is like people going through the receipts as people come home from D-Day and going, I mean, look how many tanks we lost. I mean, was Auschwitz really worth it? Really? I mean, most of the people that were there probably aren't going to live much longer. They're in terrible shape. And what are they going to do? Are those Jews going to come back and plow a field for somebody in Idaho? I don't think so.
Back even before that. I mean, we have tried to throw our weight around with sanctions far too many times.
No, we don't throw our weight around with fucking sanctions. We do sanctions so that we don't end up bombing someplace. We've done that because we are retreating from the world on purpose, in a positive sense, from our militaristic control of the world, or our militaristic tools, and moving to economic tools because they are less damaging than strafe bombing a fucking place. Now, Trump thought that was dumb. He thought use both as equal weapons. Can you starve some people and can you bomb some people? Who gives a fuck as long as we get ours? And apparently, it's bizarre to me, but Sagar and Crystal seem to be completely on board with that horse shit.
And even including with regard to Russia before this particular war and illegal invasion. Because
This war and illegal invasion. Well, at least it's nice of you to say that, unless, well,
because they had years after our initial sort of round of sanctions to build up barriers to insulate themselves.
So we should have had sanctions earlier, is what you're saying? Yeah, we were naive. We were too nice to them. The same way we were with China, quite frankly. And this is somebody who loves the Chinese culture and loves Chinese people and traveled there a bunch. We as a country, because of our fear of being perceived as racist en masse, were nicer to the Chinese government than we should have been. And in the case of Russia, we were trying to play a trust game with them because we thought, however naive it is, that they would eventually come around to just being kind of Europeans, just people. Just have your fucking country and do your shit. Nobody cares. Little did we know they had a deep and sort of permanent paranoia about the rest of the world that they just don't want to fucking let go of.
Right, past 2013 to insulate themselves from the economic warfare that we wage. So I'm not going to say that it has had no impact. But
well, good. Okay. All right. Because you've seen it or because you can't ignore it?
Certainly hasn't had the impact that we thought here in the West that it was going to have. And this is...
Who's we?
Reminder, with a more or less unified West with regard to China, the view...
Excuse me, unified West? What are you talking about? Didn't you just hear, Sagar? The rest of the countries don't give a shit about Ukraine. They're like, well, I don't know, maybe. Our version of Nebraska doesn't really give a fuck. I guess do your thing.
Are far less unified among, our European allies and us. So we sort of showed our hand here and showed some weakness. Yeah. Because China's looking at this and going, hey, if Russia can be basically okay, we can build up some...
Yeah, they're not basically okay. China's not basically okay right now. This is so fucking stupid. Like, you see what I mean? The nihilistic, tanky ignorance, it hurts. Yes, it just, like, and it goes on like that. Like, this is, there is no variance in this shit. And by the way, it is almost identical to what we have heard from this dickhead. And again, and maybe there's some magic about a 13-minute clip. Maybe it's some sort of warfare, like psyop thing where it's got to be if it's 13 minutes and 54 seconds, it enters the brainstem in such a way, whatever the fuck. Anyways, hi, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I'm a little too pissed right now to ask you to subscribe, but I'm going to do it anyways. Grumble, grumble, grumble. All right, I'll show you what I mean.
There's a lot going on with the markets and the latest job numbers.
By the way, the job numbers were pretty good. Better than people in the stock market especially were hoping for. They're like, fuck it, why can't there be a month where there's 100,000 so the fucking Fed will stop raising rates? That's what they're all clamoring for. And meanwhile, he's like, I know we keep saying every fucking month the economy's just going to collapse, and it fucking won't. Why won't it? Why won't you just die?
I got a note from somebody I really trust last night, said, buckle up.
Because they knew you were drunk driving?
It could be right around the corner. And I'm like, dude, I've been buckled up since 2008.
So you're saying your predictions have just eaten shit for that long?
It's always just around the corner.
Right. I don't know why that's not the name of your fucking show.
Carol Roth is with us. She is the...
Oh, my God. Carol Roth. So I know Carol Roth from Twitter. I don't think I've ever met her in person, but she sent me a copy of her book to possibly blurb or review or whatever. And it's this idea that the Democrats are declaring war on the middle class and whatever. And she's supposedly... Yeah, the war on small business. That's what it's called. There you go. She comes at it from supposedly an economics background. And I have to say, the more I read the book, the more it just sounded like Karen politics.
The author of The War on Small Business, former investment banker, gone good. And She has a book also coming out this summer that makes a great companion book with mine, You Will Own Nothing. In fact, I highly recommend if you're going to, and verify, Carol, I'm not getting any profits from your book, so I'm saying this because I believe it. It makes a great companion book with mine.
Yeah, because he's hoping if you buy her book, you'll buy his piece of shit too. He's like, yeah, the Great Reset book, which is you've got boxes and boxes and boxes of them. We know they're in the same garage with Mark Levin's book.
So buy both of them.
I have to say, Glenn, if you go on Amazon and they, it's on pre-order right now. If they say the books frequently bought together, it's your book and my book.
Yeah, same lunatics. Yeah, we get it. Now they're not frequently bought. But when they are bought, they're frequently bought together. It's a little, the language will often, the whole frequently bought gets you all excited. And then together goes, oh, okay, when they're bought, they only buy both because I bought your book and a copy of my book and you bought my book and a copy of your book to kind of boost sales. Our friends all did that. That's how it works.
Good. Well, they belong together. They belong together. So I was just talking about something that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. And that is J.P. Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon comes out and says, hey, we got to start seizing land for, wind farms. And it's just breathtaking.
Yes, J.P. Morgan Chase, who is in the Biden administration. Also, hold on. Jamie Dimon seize land wind farms. This is on Recharge News. Okay. J.P. Morgan Chase chief. Also, fuck you. By the way, why is that a liberal thing somehow? Why is that our fault? That's one of your dudes. The head of banking, giant J.P. Morgan Chase, has said the U.S. government may in future need to seize private land in order to end bottlenecks that are slowing the development of renewable energy projects worldwide. Said the eminent domain, the right of the state to seize and appropriate private property for public use, may need to be invoked in order to unlock wind, solar, and grid projects necessary for global transition to renewable energy and away from fossil fuels amid climate crisis. He made the comments in an open letter to shareholders published on the bank's website. Diamond said that much greater cooperation between governments, plural, and private sector was needed to speed renewable energy development, deployment, which, by the way, what he means is the government needs to give his investment structure more money. Right. He pointed out that while policies like U.S. Inflation Reduction Act were helpful in encouraging investment, they were not yet delivering enough new support to wean economies off fossil fuels. Massive global investment in clean energy technologies must be done and must continue to grow year over year. At the same time, permitting reforms are desperately needed to allow investment to be done in any kind of timely way. We may even need to evoke eminent domain. We simply are not getting the adequate investment fast enough for grid, solar, wind, and pipeline initiatives. Oh, and pipeline initiatives. Well, there goes the whole fucking... I guess that you lost AOC at that moment, dummy. His comments on the need to improve IRA and streamline permitting echoed those of wind industry giants such as Siemens Gamesa. Last year, the manufacturing major produced a white paper which said the long and unpredictable permitting process limit the viability of wind projects and transmission infrastructure, frequently choking off investment and the speedy rollout of new wind farms in the process. Then went on to evoke the Marshall Plan, the massive... he argued the new version of the Marshall Plan for energy and food security should be launched by the U.S. government, but suggested oil and gas production could also play a role. Now, where's the actual fucking white paper? Okay, that's the same one, right? That's in the must-read in Wind Power News, shoe. That's the same one. All right. I would like to see the white paper where they're not quoting him, but whatever. That's the end of it. And by the way, the idea that Jamie Dimon is saying it and saying, again, that he is actually saying, the head of J.P. Morgan Chase is saying we may need to use eminent domain to seize land for energy needs, which may include oil and gas and pipelines. Like, The fuck out of here. That suddenly this is, that he's taking orders from the fucking Biden administration or something.
Breathtaking.
But why? It's his opinion and it won't actually do anything. And he's on your side, dumb fuck.
How out in the open they are.
Who's they? It's the head of JP Morgan Chase. The fuck? You're not talking about it. The head of Greenpeace. Greta Thunberg didn't say this.
You aren't going to own anything.
That's not what he said. And by the way, eminent domain and lack of private ownership, you have to compensate people for eminent domain, stupid.
Yeah, it's so brazen. When you hear these things like you will own nothing or we're going to seize these things.
By the way, nice IKEA, Carol. Secondly, we don't hear these things. Some people say these things. So fucking what?
You kind of think of like, is this a conspiracy theory? Because there's
no, it's his idea. And he posted it as an idea, like, we need to grow our amount of this, but to get it going faster, they may have to use eminent domain for these kind of things and seize, private land. Well, if they do that, they have to compensate you. And in the compensation, it's going to be for transmission lines and that kind of stuff. And some people might fight back that. And the permitting process takes too long and blah, 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 blah. It's the same complaint that Trump had about real estate development. They all want to get rid of the permitting process. The idea that they're doing it for some sort of, nefarious green tech idea is a fucking smokescreen at best.
No way the elite and the well-connected could be advocating for the end of property rights.
It was in his quarterly report.
That's what I'm saying. It's unbelievable. They are saying the quiet part aloud. If you do the research, it is everywhere. And the challenge is it's coming from every direction. So
No, it's not. I got news for you. Donald Trump was the first president to give American territory to Mexico since the 1800s. Like, since the War of the Alamo, I think. Never was a line drawn that gave land to Mexico by the United States, except for Trump's fucking wall, where he used eminent domain for the wall to get parts of it through, and split property owned by other people with the wall, making the land on south of the wall fucking Mexico. You have no property rights or no protections on the other side of the fucking wall, even though the border is technically like a half a mile away. But the Biden administration isn't doing this, you dumbass.
Not like it's just one force that's coming at you. It's not just like it's the government or the Fed or the banking sector or the NGOs or big tech.
It's all of it. We're all surrounded. Everybody's trying to do it. Nobody wants us to. They're all part of the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab runs the whole world.
Everybody and all at once. And it's really—
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The you will own nothing and you'll be happy idea of like goods and like phones and shit like that, which you mostly rent these days anyways. Like car leases, most people lease their cars at a certain higher level, and that's what they're talking about. You can have access to a nicer car if you lease it, turn it over. Phones and the same kind of shit. Like you basically don't own your phone. Very few people buy it outright. You make little payments, so technically you don't own your phone, and they could repossess it if they wanted to. And if you didn't want to do that process, you can buy it, but you don't have to. And if the newer one comes out, you're not tied to this. Oh, and I just paid $1,000 for this fucking thing, and a new one came out that does twice what it does for $800. Son of a bitch. You could just roll it over most of the time. That's what they're talking about with a lot of these things. That's how most things are operating now. And it's like they say in the South, nobody buys a beer, you just rent it. You don't own a beer, you just rent it. And the same thing is true with a bunch of these things. But in the case of eminent domain, that's a wholly different thing. Jesus Christ.
Really interesting, because if you think about how people used to, or countries used to seize riches, right? They would go to war with other countries and they would take other people's riches. But
yeah, where was that? I mean, can we do that more? When are we going to do that again? That was awesome.
This time it's your own government and everyone around you coming at you. They are at war with you.
No, they're not. Also, hold on. Wait. Letter to shareholders. Two days ago. Annual letter to shareholder. Talking about the banking. Okay, hold on. I think. Let's see. Text. I don't know. Yeah, here you go. Jamie Dimon letter to shareholders 2023. Dear fellow shareholders. Hi. Snarf. Hold on. Hello. Hi. I'm Jamie Dimon. Hello. He doesn't talk like that. We are champions of banking's essential role. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for Glenn Beck. All right. It's potential for bringing people together, for enabling companies and okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Across the globe, another year of significant challenges, terrible war in Ukraine, growing geopolitical tensions, particularly with China, to a politically divided America, blah, blah, blah. These events unfold. America remains divided within its borders. The global leadership role is being challenged outside of its borders. Nevertheless, there is a moment when we should put aside our differences and work with our Western nations to come together in defense of democracy and essential freedoms. Okay, so he's including free enterprise, which is why he wants to support Ukraine. During other times of great crisis, we have seen America, in partnership with other countries across the globe, unite for a common cause. That is the moment again. Okay, in spite of unsettling landscape. Let's see. In total, we extended credit and raised capital of $2.4 trillion for our consumer and institutional clients across the world. I remain proud of our company's resiliency and what our hundreds of thousands of employees around the world have achieved collectively and individually throughout these challenging past few years. We never stopped doing all the things we should be doing to serve our clients and our communities, adhering to our basic principles and challenges. Blarby-flarby-flar. As you know, we are champions of banking's essential role in community, its potential for bringing people together, for enabling companies and individuals to attain their goals, and for being a source of strength with a steadfast principles worth repeating. Fifth, we strive to build enduring business, blah, blah. Here's their earnings, diluted earnings, doing pretty good there, I guess. Tangible book value, there's all their share shit, there's blah, blah, blah. And then if you were making lots of money, and everything's fine, and specifics facing the thing, and we're proud of this, and make possible dreams every day, and highlight our diversity, equity, and inclusion, which of course is a fucking panic attack. Here's why Glenn Beck is shitting the bed. Update on our $30 billion racial equity commitment. Oh dear God, ESG. Yeah, that's why he hates Jamie Dimon.
So, this is the time that we have to get battle
And this
ready.
is why they've said for years it's a conspiracy theory.
No. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I think you're both assholes. It's a lot less complicated.
Because they needed to delay us from stopping it.
Yeah, that's right. We had all our, like, he had accounts at Chase Bank for a long time and shit.
And only when the American people wake up, and we're running out of time. I saw on Tucker Carlson, what?
Oh, good. So at least you're going to a good source.
Night before last, he's now all over de-dollarization.
Uh-huh. Gee, it's almost like everybody got the same fucking memo.
Which, I've been talking about that forever, and no one thought that was possible. And it's happening in exactly the way I thought it would, when people felt the dollar was at the end and America was weak.
Okay, first of all, that's not the feeling at all. It's frustratingly strong. Hold on one second. He does this every fucking time. U.S. dollar. I think it actually dipped below $1 for the first time. Treasury, okay, shit. I was about to say, I think it was at 99 cents or whatever. Why aren't you going? What's happening? Get back here. Hold on. Damn you, Joe Biden, you're fucking up the whole thing. U.S. yields and dollar climbs after jobs report. Fucking hell. Why can't... It's just like Glenn Beck said. And Sagar. They're almost like this. It's Sagar and Glenn Beck working out economics. New York, April 7th. That's soon, right? U.S. Treasury yields and the dollar climbed in an abbreviated session on Friday because it's Good Friday, after employment data for March indicated the labor market remained tight last month, raising the odds that the Federal Reserve has at least one more rate hike in store. Wall Street exchanges were closed until Monday due to the Good Friday holiday. European markets are closed on both Friday and Monday. Non-farm payrolls increased by 236,000 goddamn jobs. Data for February was revised higher. Shit! To show 326,000 jobs were added instead of 311,000. You bastard, Joe Biden. All right. Stop it. The unemployment rate dipped from 3.5 to 3.5 from 3.6. And by the way, that's because they revised the number. The 3.6 where it supposedly went up, it didn't. Nevertheless, the data that are going to keep the Fed on track for a 25 basis point hike in May. Let's see, full future contracts, blah, 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 blah. Where's the fucking story continues? Where's the dollar? I know they have it in here. Treasury yield was up 17.2 basis points to 3.99%. The dollar index rose 0.13%. It's $1.09 again. Son of a bitch. Oh, sorry. Dollar index rose 0.13% with the euro down 0.09 to $1.91. I remember when the euro was worth $2. You remember that? That was destroying the dollar. So stupid. It's so stupid. It's so aggravating.
They would
have the, you know what? Like, when this shit happens, I'm always prepared for, hey, maybe I'm a little behind. Maybe the dollar dropped to 86 cents. Maybe that's the big thing. And suddenly the dollar's going to be worth less in world markets. And therefore, that's why people are dropping it. They're not dropping it. It's too expensive. They can't afford it. They can't get enough dollars. The fucking Fed is tightening the reins and taking money out of the system because it's causing inflation. And that's what he thinks he's fucking fighting, even though it's caused by supply shock, not by inflation, but whatever the fuck. Because this idea that the money printer went burr and off you go. But if the dollar costs more than your own local currency, you're going to go with your own local currency, no matter how shitty it is. Oh, God. It's so dumb.
come up with a better dollar. And that.
Yeah. And that's the yuan. Yes. Yes. Because the Chinese aren't known for manipulating their currency on purpose. How China influences the U.S. dollar. China directly affects the U.S. dollar by loosely pegging the value of its currency, the renminbi, to the dollar. China's central bank uses a modified version of traditional fixed exchange rate that differs from the floating exchange rate of the United States and many other countries use. The People's Bank manages the yuan's value. It keeps it fixed to a basket of currencies reflecting its trading partners. The basket is weighted towards the dollar since the United States is China's largest trading partner. It keeps the yuan's value within a 2% range against the currency basket. On August 11, 2015, the PBOC, People's Bank of China, modified this peg. The change uses a reference rate that is equal to the previous day's yuan closing value. The PBOC wanted the yuan to be more driven by market forces, even if it meant greater market volatility. The International Monetary Fund added the renminbi to its special drawing rights basket, a supplement of official reserve currencies for different countries. Why China fixes the yuan's value to the dollar. Now, again, one would think that if you fix your currency to the value of the US dollar, if the US dollar takes a shit, what happens to your currency? Exactly. Okay. Let's see. The changing value of here you go. Market forces in China's currency management efforts can lead to notable fluctuations in the value of the yuan. For example, China's 2015 modification to its exchange rate allowed the yuan's value to fall from just over 6.1 yuan per dollar at the beginning to just under 6.4 per dollar in September of that year. To restore the yuan's value, the PBOC used its dollar reserves to buy yuan from Chinese banks by taking that's their version of repo. By taking the yuan out of circulation, the bank raised the currency's value. At the same time, it lowered the dollar's value by putting more dollars into circulation. They still hold an enormous amount of dollars as their primary reserve to peg to their currency, because if those dollars flow out, get spent, or get removed by the Fed from circulation, they can't use them themselves. Okay. In January 2016, China further relaxed its control of the yuan. The uncertainty over the yuan's future contributed to the Dow falling almost 1,500 points. S&P 500 fell about 2.3. By 2017, the yuan had fallen to its lowest point since 2008. But China wasn't in a currency war with the United States. Instead, it was trying to compensate for the rising dollar. Between 2014 and 2015, the dollar rose 11.8%. Gee, I forget who was president. Because it was pegged to the dollar, the yuan followed it. China's exports became more expensive than those from other countries not tied to the dollar. Again, we're not talking about petrodollars for all the dum-dums at home who think that's a fucking thing. It had to lower its exchange rate to remain competitive. China's inflation. China's leaders must slow economic growth to avoid inflation and future collapse. They pumped too much liquidity into state-run companies and banks because they are flooding the world with useless yuan, which is one of the other reasons why they need it to become a reserve currency, so other people grab it and park on it. And the Russians did that, and then and they were like, we'll pay you back, we'll make the exchange in yuan. So, yeah, we'll give you this, you give us yuan. And then they were like, we'll buy that and we'll give you your yuan back. And they're like, nope, we don't want it. Fuck are you talking about? It's your currency. Yeah, we don't want it back. We want rubles for that, or US dollars or gold or something else. We don't want our money. You sit on our money. Why? Well, because we want to be able to fuck with our numbers internationally to say that it sits there as a part of a reserve currency, not as a denied currency, which is what it fucking is. And then, oh, by the way, this goes on into the impact of China's slowing growth, which, of course, is an area that Sagar and Carol and Glenn and all these motherfuckers just do not want to look at. I don't get it. There's another reason China needs to be careful with slowing growth. Emerging market countries rely on exports to China to fuel their growth. As China's growth slows, it will hurt some of those trade partners more than others. As those countries, keep an eye out for that, Brazil. As these countries' exports slow, so will their growth. Foreign direct investment will drop as well, which absolutely happened, by the way. Foreign direct investment in China has taken a huge shit. I can't, like, hold on one second. I know this is where I get riled up, but between that Sagar shit and this, ugh, fucking hell. Hold on one second. Let's see. China, foreign. Yeah. Let's see, where's this one? This is from the Nikkei. Yeah. This is, can I read this, or are you going to block it? Okay, we're good. Okay. I want you, before I show you what I'm about to show you, I want you to remember what Sagar said about China being the number 2 economy in the world, without any sense of irony about that phrase. And I want you also to remember what Crystal Ball said, and what Dore has said, and what, I guess, Glenn Beck has said multiple times, and what Carol Roth is talking about to some degree, about this whole, like, they're going to eat our lunch, that whole story. Let me just show you some. This is what we would call in reality a fucking fact. Foreign investment in China slumps to 18-year low. Economic and political worries spur more exits and fewer new entries. Not only, like, forget, like, the small companies that have just stopped ordering shit from China because it's unreliable, or they don't like it, or whatever the fuck. Apple is getting out of China. Like, their exit strategy is going to take years to do it. And part of the State Department, like, one of the biggest reasons we're playing footsie with China and not being as dickish as we absolutely could be right now, and why we're tiptoeing in a couple of areas is to give Apple time to extract itself from China in particular, to get their factories up and running in other countries, namely Vietnam, Indonesia, India, and parts of Eastern Europe and Mexico. Chip factories in the United States, but the places that actually build stuff, they actually functionally, just put them together, slap them together. Again, made in China often means assembled in China, okay? Investment by foreign companies in China, and this is not just the US, by the way. This is world fucking wide. Because remember that old COVID thing? Apparently, the rest of the world still has a chip on its shoulder as well. If you're an Italian investor who was getting your shoes made there or a clothing line or something like that, you might be a little touchy about the country after they not only you blame them for killing your grandmother, but they blamed you for it. Because at one point, again, China was saying that the disease came from Italy and fuck those people. Okay. Investment by foreign companies in China tumbled to its lowest level in 18 years in the second half of last year, buffeted by tensions with the U.S., a dimming growth outlook, and fears of possible backsliding on economic reforms. Because nobody trusts them anymore. There's no such thing as a billionaire in China anymore. And everybody they tried to honeypot for about 10 years in the early 2000s started backing away as soon as Xi Jinping started tightening the noose, and anybody smart got out early. Because initially, everybody thought it was the Wild West. And they're just like, oh, we'll do business here. They want to do business. And I mean, they're communists, sure, but who gives a fuck? They want to sell widgets. I got people who want to buy widgets. I'll get something built over here. It'll be cheap, yada, yada. And it's basically, it's not like I'm rolling in like Coca-Cola in India and killing people over water rights. This is just a fucking factory. And they've got a factory running all the time. They want to build my shit. Let them build my shit. Like it was, and everybody just kind of rolled in. And by the way, there was this idea that there's a ton of money to take out the door. Like, okay, yeah, you could build a bunch of stuff here. You make a deal with us and we will 2x or 3x your output if you put the factory here or you let us work on this. And China really played that up with everybody. In many ways, it's how they tried to go after people like Devin Archer, who is Hunter Biden's partner, and the guys over there, why they were trying to yeah, we're friends. We're just all friends. This is all friendly and we mean well and it's going to be fine. When in reality, they had a long-term plan to basically steal all your shit and then sit on it and tell you to go fuck yourself and be an entire enclosed environment. They're going to put a cloche over the whole fucking country. All right. Foreign and direct investment into China totaled $42.5 billion between July and December of 2022. According to an official balance of payments, that constituted a 73% decline on the year. The sharpest drop dating back to data in 1999. Half-year totals that averaged more than $160 billion between 2020 and early 2022. Meanwhile, foreign direct investment by Chinese companies grew 21% to $84.2 billion, meaning that they're spending more out than they are getting in. 41.7 net outflow marked the first in 5.5 years. They're trying to grease the wheels. They're trying to invest in other places and yeah, we're good. We'll play good or whatever. They're fucking around. They're throwing money at the problem, essentially. The problem is when they do that, they don't have money to shore up their problems back home. Think Evergrande. Think, their ghost cities and all that shit we've talked about a bunch of times. Companies reluctant to make new investments in China has been fueled in part by fallout from the country's zero COVID policy. Actually utilized foreign direct investment, which includes reinvested profits in the last quarter of 2022, fell 35% on the year to $33.8 billion. These are people who, are building on what they did the year before. So they're like, okay, we did 1,000 orders. If everything goes well, we'll do 1,500 next year, and we'll do 2,000 next year. It's got a test as we go kind of arrangement. They're actually retracting. The steepest drop since the availability of comparable data in 1996, according to the Ministry of Commerce. This is Chinese numbers, by the way. This is not, me looking up some IHateChina.com. Recent years have seen almost no new entries by European companies, according to an analyst of investments in China by New York-based Rhodium Group. And among businesses that continue to invest in China, the research firm noted a trend of internal decoupling, with companies including large automakers segregating their Chinese and non-Chinese supply chains to limit risks such as technology leaks. So you don't build your best stuff in China. You build 3-year-old models that you sell in other countries there. You don't build your new line there because they will steal it, is the idea. This has nothing to do with COVID. This is just them going, fuck this after a while. Okay, but remind me again, assholes, how China's going to find a workaround. By the way, while pegging the yuan to the US dollar, it's just so fucking dumb.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about a new financial world order, this is something that happens on a regular basis. You know, we have lived at a time where we are the center of the global financial universe, so we feel like we're invincible. I'm sure that the British before us felt the same way, and the Dutch before them felt the same way, because you don't have that perspective. But as the elite are seeing this new financial world order play out, they are jockeying to put themselves in position to control every possible resource and make sure in the process you own nothing. And that is the shift that we are seeing take place. The challenge that we have,
again, honest to God, she's still talking about the World Economic Forum and the idea that we're going to all be renters of everything in our lives in the West. There is no even illusion in the World Economic Forum folks that any of this shit applies to China or Russia or Brazil or any of the BRICS countries or any of that stuff. They just kind of shrug that shit off and assume they're going to set up their own version of this nonsense. Nobody's fucking playing along in this stuff.
Which, as you know, we always see the trajectory. We just don't know the duration. We don't know if it's going to happen in 6 months, and we don't know if it's going to take years. But
the problem is, if it doesn't happen in 6 months, there are too many interrupters for it to be an emergency and a conspiracy. If you're conspiring to change the world in 30 years to a system no one will recognize, and you think you're going to do it by the boiling frog method, at some point, and again, I would argue this is exactly what's happening with petroleum, but the opposite of the way that they're saying it. I would argue that we woke up a few years ago, around 9/11 specifically, but in and around that area. And when you would see that, you know, when people were protesting with the No Blood for Oil posters and the idea that we were in the Middle East, or that the Bushes and the Cheneys had this plan to control Middle Eastern oil and yada, yada. And we were like, fuck that. Why do we even need this garbage? That's when, like, who killed the electric car came out, and everybody started moving in this direction. And, you know, Tesla got a bunch of money from the Obama administration, wouldn't exist without it. And we started moving in a direction where consumer vehicles should largely be electric, so that we can shave off the extra oil and gas that we used beyond what we produce as a nation. So we're not reliant on violent monsters anymore to drive to the fucking store. And so we decided in a long process that was going to take years, call it net zero, call it the green future, whatever the fuck it was, that was seeded in violence that started in our need to be involved in the Middle East, allegedly, to keep oil flowing so that our economy would continue to grow, to move to a situation where we don't need oil for our economy to grow at all. And the other folks that saw how well we did on that pile, using oil to grease our systems, are not learning what the Indians learned about, like, telecom, for example. The reason why everyone in India got a phone faster than anyone else in the world is because the rest of us put up phone lines, physical phone lines. We went through the early stages of it. But the Indians at one point just went, all right, well, fuck it, we can't afford to do that. Fuck it, we'll just go without. And then as soon as cell phones showed up, everybody got one. It was easy to put up towers. It was easy to set up, you know, buy into someone else's satellite system. And suddenly they have phone coverage over a giant fucking country almost instantly. Instead of doing that, instead of going, oh my God, the U.S. is going almost entirely electric, and along with Canada, over the next 10 years, and they are moving their consumer vehicles, whether it's Amazon trucks or their own little vehicles, you know, like just commuter cars and that kind of stuff, to electric. And they're going to get to a point where gas stations are going to be, you're going to drive right fucking past them. Instead of going, we don't need all this diesel and shit like that, why don't we just jump to the next line? We'll make our investments in other areas, and then once they hit that line where they've got enough of those vehicles being produced, we'll just buy a bunch of them, and we'll build our system like the Indians did on wireless telecom on electric vehicles and the like so that we don't have to go through this polluting phase. But instead, China is just going all in on coal. They're just like they're lying to the world about green tech. Their solar is shit. They're not using it anywhere. It's so stupid how many people actually buy it that have never fucking been there and walked around it and gone, "Oh, this is not attached to anything." I see. So where was this wire supposed to go? I mean, it's one thing if the plug was still on it, but someone stole the plug. These solar panels are not attached to anything. And they're facing the wrong direction. The sun rises over there and goes this way, and they're faced south. What the shit are you doing? It's just dumb. And somebody said, I love my Zero electric motorcycle. The brand Zero Whistle-O. I'm very excited at that idea. I've looked at those a couple of times. Awesome. You like it? It's cool. Yeah? Okay, here we go. Back to these idiots. I don't know how much more of this shit I can stand either.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared right now because you just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, which is why you need to buy Carol Roth and Glenn Beck's bucket of shit. Shit, it's edible shit, and then you just shit it back into the bucket and start all over again. Just put a bucket of shit in your bunker. If you got a family of 4, get 4 buckets of shit. You just drink the shit down, shit the shit out, right back in the bucket with Carol Roth and Glenn Beck's bucket of shit. These motherfuckers, be prepared. The rapture might be coming. You know what that's like. Jesus might appear at any moment. So, you should constantly be praying for forgiveness because you're a fucking asshole all the rest of the day.
Yesterday, the Treasury came out and said, we need punitive action and more regulation on cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Yes. You do, dummy. And everybody who lost their fucking shirt because of FTX said yes.
I mean, they are doing everything they can to kill cryptocurrency.
No, they aren't. Honest to God, regulations are the only thing that can fucking revive it. They're trying to do CPR, you dumbass. Do you think anybody stopped buying crypto when FTX went down because they feared government regulations? They bugged out because they knew it was completely untrustworthy, that there was no regulations, that it was fucking fart air. Yeah, exactly. Crypto knifed itself. The shit are you talking? Like, who even believes this? Who thinks this? This is one of the, like I was ready for a stupid take on something else, but this, to just swing in there like, we need to punish people if they cheat people out of their money with crypto. Like, yeah, and?
Crypto is at 27 for Bitcoin now, 27,000. That's up. Gold was...
Is it? Hold on. 27,938. It's down $113 today, but let's see. There you go. There's got to be a chart, if I may. Here's the chart. Let's see. 1 year. 5 year. 1 year. There you go. Here you go. This is in a year, Glenn. This is the last year in Bitcoin. Hold on, it's spiked back up on the other side, so we'll let it at least have a mini hockey stick on the other end. There you go. Whoop, there it is. Flat. There you go. February. That's where it is right now. This is where it was last year. April 7th, it was 43,452. And there's a bunch of people saying it's going to be 1 million in the next 90 days. You know why they're saying that? You know why they're saying that, Glenn? You know why they're saying it's going to be $1 million in 90 days? So dumbasses all over the place will pour their money into Bitcoin because they believe that person, and that person is going to wait until their money gets until they can lie everyone up to 45K and get their money the fuck out.
Is it, what, 240 yesterday? And Citibank is saying that they expect it soon to be at $2,300.
Hold on, what was? Back up. I didn't hear the middle part of that.
27 for Bitcoin now, 27,000. That's up. Gold was at, what, 240 yesterday? And Citibank is saying that...
Hold on. Gold per ounce? Gold is it?
They expect it soon to be at $2,300.
Say that again. Hold on one second. Me, if I may. Gold is at what? So, hey, that sounds great, man. If it's going to go up 100%.
Citibank is saying that they expect it soon to be at $2,300.
Yeah. Now, Carol has a look on her face that says, you just said something dumb, Glenn.
Gold was at, what, 240 yesterday?
240. Yesterday, gold was $240. How about no? You dumb son of a bitch. It's down $2 today. It's at $2,000. When the fuck? Gold hasn't been at $2, like $240 since when? Where was the last time? The maximum of it? Shit. The lowest it's been on their chart on gold futures was in 2016. It was $1,000. Gold price per ounce. There you go. Is that what he's talking about? Hold on. Nope. Yeah, that's it. Gold price per ounce. There it is. $2,007.66. And there's a big old chart about how much it's going to be worth. And you put your money in pretty rocks. That's the Glenn Beck way.
And Citibank is saying that they expect it soon to be at $2,300.
I mean, it's just everywhere. Today, it's like, sorry, Lord, it's Stupid Friday. Clearly. Good Lord. Now, Carol is supposedly smart. She's a former investment banker. She has to know that gold was not $240 fucking dollars yesterday, or everyone would have bought some. Oh, he might have missed a zero. That's no excuse. He didn't say... Hold on.
Citibank is saying that they expect it soon to be at $2,300. That's craziness.
Yes, it is, Glenn. But the craziness is on the other... It's in your brain, not in their brain. You see? Because it was not... Oh, my God. A gram? Yeah. A gram. That's the theory. He's talking grams. Kilos.
Yeah,
yeah.
If you control the money, you control...
Gold isn't money, it's a pretty rock.
The people. So
no, you don't.
The people who are...
No, you don't.
Are involved with governments and central banks around the world, they are going to fight to the death to make sure they do not lose control of the money and the interest.
What the fuck does that mean? They're not going to kill the people who have their own citizens who use the currency. If the Fed was going to kill people just to get US dollars out of the fucking system, we'd be strafe bombing drug cartels, dummy. They're the ones sitting on giant bricks of fucking cash. What the shit?
interesting thing for people who are interested in maintaining hard assets, like
Hey, I've never had a problem.
I am, and I know you are,
Well, try as he might.
is that gold isn't really a center focus for them. They're very, very focused on cryptocurrency, and they're going to take that interest in it and confuse people to move towards the central bank digital currency that you've been warning about and I've been warning about. And that's the number one thing that we all need to push back on.
Ah! Oh God! The Fed ran a test on it and said no. They literally were like, we should try this. Should there be a bank version of cryptocurrencies? If people are interested in cryptocurrencies, should there be a one that we can actually control that people could weight their other cryptocurrencies against and maintain a value? Is it a good idea? Can people, and they ran a test on it. Hold on. Fed tests. Hold on, let me back this up real quick. See if I can get right up against this.
Been warning about currency, and they're going to take that interest in it and confuse people to move towards the central bank digital currency that you've been warning about.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. It's December 15, long way to launch technical possibilities U.S. manufacturing. First ever, here you go. White House released first ever comprehensive framework for responsible development of digital assets. That's different. Okay, hold on one second. News. Let's try this. Yeah, here you go. Okay. This is they think like the Fed ran this thing on testing for central bank digital currencies, and now everybody thinks that the Federal Reserve digital payment service, which is a way of exchanging stuff that uses blockchain so that it can't be intercepted and stolen, blah blah blah, creates a digital currency. It doesn't. Some are claiming that the new Federal Reserve payment service will create a digital dollar in the U.S. That's false. The Federal Reserve announced on March 15 that a payment service called FedNow will be launched in July 2023. That's led to online claims, including this one from Robert F. Kennedy, asshole, equating FedNow to a central bank digital currency. Verify reader Wanda also asked if claims the FedNow creates CBDC are true. No. False. No, FedNow does not create a central bank digital currency. FedNow is not the same thing as a central bank digital currency, nor does it create one. Federal Reserve and several experts told Verify. The great thing about this hackery, if I may, and I've only got 5 minutes left in the show, is that there are straw man and there are steel man arguments. And then there are what I would say are ghost arguments, where you are arguing against a specter that you can scare someone with, but there is no chance that it will materialize, that it will never achieve physical form. And therefore, if you line yourself up and steel your back and say, I'm the person protecting you against this thing, and that thing never happens, people, sponge-headed ones, yes, but people that support you or follow you can believe, see, if it wasn't for him or her, this would have happened. It's so aggravating. Like, these motherfuckers.
I've been warning about, and that's the number one thing that we all need to push back on, because
think about everything else these assholes have said. Think about it. Everything else these idiots have said. And a central bank digital currency, effectively a blockchain created cryptocurrency that you can use as a form of digital money without ever having to have a paper certificate, but that is blockchain transferable through a myriad of sources, and therefore, if you want to pay, something on the down low and you don't want it showing up, you can do that with a crypto. That's the entire point. And blockchain related currencies can all be done that way. So even if it's a government led currency, they still can't tell where it's going because you have rights against unreasonable search and seizure, and that would be entrapment. That would be, like you're still going to be able to buy heroin or fentanyl with fucking CBDCs if they actually exist. But these assholes think it's the mark of the beast and blah, blah, blah.
It needs congressional authorization. They are going to slip it in somewhere.
It's always been my plan.
And we have to find out where and make sure that that doesn't pass.
So they're going to slip it in some.
Oh, Carol, you opened a can of worms? Oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear.
And we have to find out where and make sure that that doesn't pass.
So they're going to slip it in somewhere in pieces, or
or just the tip, probably.
Or it's going to come when a bank
Oh, it'll definitely come when they slip it in. Believe me.
crisis happens and it's over. And then they'll just go on television and say to everybody, you got to do this. It'll be TARP. They'll just ram it through.
You mean congressional Republicans or Ron DeSantis or Trump?
You can't have a bank run if you don't have banks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be their arguments. And we need to say, nope, that doesn't pass muster with us.
Sure you can. Yeah, you can. You can actually, the same thing with Bitcoin, you can create a hard drive place for it to sit. Your code is the only thing that allows it to be moved about. That's how blockchain works. If you don't give up that code, it doesn't move. And the only way that the government could make it move without your approval is that they would have to have a warrant for your private property and show that you committed a crime or that you did not own that in the first place. And none of these cases, even the case of a CBDC, would that be the case. Otherwise, I mean, again, this is just the fear of communism. This is that's how communism is going to happen.
Yeah. Tell me, I've been hearing about the job numbers, and the job numbers came out today, and they weren't so bad, but I don't trust the job numbers from the government.
I trust China's numbers and Russia's numbers and Saudi Arabia's numbers and Iran's numbers and the drug cartel's numbers and Brazil's numbers and any article written about any foreign country. But I don't trust the job. I did under Donald Trump, even though he actively said he would lie to my fucking face.
Well, let me tell you a couple of things about it. First of all, it was right around expectations, 236,000 jobs added.
Added. 250,000 people got a new job.
Again, if you believe that. The interesting piece, if you do a little bit of a digging, is that government really propped up that number. So this wasn't coming hugely from the private sector.
Let's take a look. Let's see if Carol's right about that. I mean, I don't know where. I was just say, okay, jobs report. Okay. Stands streak, labor market cool, U.S. March, jobs report today is the stock market open today. Good Friday employment situation summary, U.S. ad. Let's go to here, generalize. These are, here you go. Here are the few key figures from the report compared to last month's revised numbers. Non-farm payrolls, 236 versus 326. Obviously, satanic numbers. There's a lot of 2s and 3s and 6s. Unemployment rate 3.5 versus 3.6. Average hourly earnings 0.3 up 0.3 versus up 0.2. So they continue to rise. Average hourly earnings year over year 4.2 versus 4.6. The unemployment rate, total non-farm payrolls up like there. By industry, leisure and hospitality was again the largest contributor to last month's job gains. Obviously, Democrats throwing parties about passing their infrastructure bill. 72,000 new workers coming into the sector during March. Temporary help services, such as were the second largest contributor to job growth last month, with 65,000 workers joining the sector. The labor force participation also ticked higher in March, rising 62.6 from 62.5 in February. Average weekly hours fell slightly, so people worked a little less. Over the last 6 months, the U.S. economy has added an average of 334,000 jobs a month. Following Friday's release, markets are now pricing in a 67% chance the Fed will raise it up another quarter basis points. Forecast from the central bank suggests at least one. Still, economists see March's jobs data as beginning a period of slower growth for U.S., which will eventually result in the rise of the unemployment rate. That's what the fucking Fed is shooting for. Fed expects unemployment to rise to 4.5% by the end of this year. That's their goal. Earlier this week, data on initial jobless claims out Thursday and private payroll data from ADP came in, slowing wage growth from 4.6 over the prior year to 4.2. Initial claims. I'm not seeing this jobs shit that says it's government. Are you? It looks largely hospitality and temp workers. Are these temporary government workers?
Sector was less than expected, but there were 47,000 government jobs added. So all of that government spending is
47,000 government jobs. Oh my gosh. 47,000 government jobs added to today's top 47,000 state government jobs. Okay, no, sorry. Where jobs were gained and lost in March. Here you go. This is okay. This is CNN Business is saying this. Here we go. This might be what. The latest monthly jobs show the U.S. hiring slowed in March, but remained robust. Gains in leisure and hospitality fueled the month's growth trend. By the way, the 236,000 and 40,000 of them were government jobs. Okay, is that what she's saying? Gains were continued. Some weakness, cracks, 9,000 jobs in March. Government employers added 47,000 jobs in a month, largely by hiring from state and local governments, which typically struggle to add workers in a tight labor market. Healthcare businesses added 34,000 jobs, and employment in the business sector. What do you know? State and local government. Obviously, that's the federal government money printer go burr, right? No? But how? That means, doesn't that count as like cops and people who, staffers and all kinds of ranges of state and local jobs? Yes, it does. The mayor of this little town can afford a staffer now because their tax base has gone up. I know. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, could they be more full of shit? Yes, they could. And they keep doing it.
Is propping up the economy and also working against what the Fed is trying to do. So I think
propping up the economy and fighting the Fed. So the state and local governments are fighting the Fed. Like, this is fucking stupid. She wants you to believe that the federal government, the Biden administration, is hiring government workers to push back against the fucking Fed trying to crash employment and raise it a whole point to fight inflation, so that they're struggling against Jerome Powell. But the problem is that the right wing also thinks Jerome Powell is trying to fuck the economy. God damn, they're stupid. Dark Brandon scores again, and I'm here for it. Thank you, Ray Allen. Oh my gosh. And Marcus, thank you as well. That's really lovely, Ray Allen. Bless you. Thank you guys. And don't forget, by the way, thumbs up, support the show. I'm out. I gotta like this. I can only take so much stupid in one day. Holy shit. Love you guys. I was riled up today. And I want to, I don't like to get too riled up. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy trying to, enjoy ourselves. You know what I mean? You can't carry that kind of shit around with you all the time. So I want to say from the heart, as warmly as I possibly can, to Glenn, to Carol, to Sagar, Crystal Ball, to Jimmy, and all those folks or whatever. Fuck you. Fuck your stupid ideas and your stupid conceptions of reality that don't match any of the data, and you just shift them to fix it. Fuck you. Sorry, is that not what you were expecting? Sorry. Other than that, I have no opinion. Oh, and one more thing.